Hi, Epic Recaps here, and today I want to share a sad and beautiful story about a dwarf who is too ashamed of his appearance to woo the love of his life, and instead helps his rival win her heart by writing love letters for him. The movie opens in France, and a beautiful young woman named Roxanne, with the help of her chaperone Marie, readies herself for the theater. Orphaned and without a penny to her name, she's to accompany the pompous Duke de Guiche to the theater that night. When she shares that she wants to find and marry for true love, Marie wisely tells her that children need love, and adults need money. Fashionably late, Roxanne hurries to the carriage and joins the Duke, who comments that she would look better in a red dress. She coyly responds that his flamboyant friend, Comte Valverde, would do the red dress more justice. Uninterested in their company, Roxanne begins to daydream about finding true love as she looks out the window. Elsewhere, a soldier named Christian Nouvelet, also penniless, makes his way through the crowded street. Stopping by a local bakery, he glimpses Roxanne as she passes by. Told that she's above his station, he follows her into the theater, hoping to get another glimpse of her. As Roxanne settles into her seat, she notices Christian in the crowd and is instantly taken with him. The show finally begins after the crowd's exuberant urging but is shortly interrupted by Cyrano de Bergerac, a childhood friend of Roxanne's. A brilliant sword fighter, the dwarf is also masterful and has a way with words. He insults the lead actor and chases him off the stage as his friend amusingly watches from atop, much to the Duke's displeasure. Valverde calls Cyrano a freak, and when that doesn't have an effect, the men exchange insulting jabs which result in a duel in front of the boisterous crowd. Cyrano manages to take down Valverde fairly but is then attacked from behind. Delivering a killing thrust, Roxanne exhales in relief. Back in the carriage, Roxanne tells the Duke that Cyrano took no joy in killing his friend. Learning of her and Cyrano's connection, he demands that Roxanne end the friendship. Cyrano arrives at the bar with his friend Lebret, a fellow soldier. Having noted Cyrano's earlier performance, Lebret bluntly asks if his friend is in love. Cyrano sheepishly admits that his sole purpose is to love Roxanne, but because of his appearance, is unworthy of her. Asked if she knows, Cyrano believes she would be mortified by the thought, and claims her to be perfect in every way. The men are interrupted when Marie arrives and informs Cyrano that Roxanne wishes to meet with him in private. Cyrano suggests meeting at a bakery and agrees to be there for 7 a.m. When Marie leaves, Cyrano is unable to contain his excitement in the hopes that Roxanne might feel the same way about him. Bidding Lebret farewell, an overjoyed Cyrano sings to himself on his walk home. He's approached by a group of armed men who surround him, and he manages to dispose of them with his skilled swordsmanship. Arriving at Ragueneau's the next day, Cyrano pens Roxanne a letter. Proclaiming to have loved her from the moment he set eyes on her, he writes that he loses himself in her eyes. Repeating her name over and over, Roxanne suddenly appears in the doorway. Left alone, the two fall into easy banter as she attends to his wound. Noting her nervousness, Cyrano waits with a lump in his throat as she confesses that she fell in love at the theater, and that the man is unaware of her feelings. With a confession of his own, he is unable to reveal his returning love as Roxanne continues with hers. Cyrano is then devastated when she reveals that she's fallen in love with Christian, a stranger in the crowd. Heartbroken, Cyrano agrees to help her arrange a meeting with the new soldier recruit, and before leaving, she asks him about his confession, and instead of revealing his love for her, he tells her about taking out 10 men the other night. Later on at the military post, Cyrano relentlessly takes out his broken heart on a punching bag when the arrival of the Duke is announced. Aware that the Duke was behind the attack the previous night, Cyrano refuses the nobleman's multiple offers to join his retinue, including publishing his poetry work. Told he can't be bought, the Duke leaves him jolted with fear when he confesses his next conquest, his beloved Roxanne. Back inside, Lebret warns Cyrano against pushing the Duke too far. Refusing to be a puppet to the nobleman, or anyone for that matter, he flinches when Lebret asks what became of the meeting with Roxanne. Elsewhere in the courtyard, Christian arrives at the base and is surrounded by the veteran soldiers for an initiation. Holding his ground, he challenges his next opponent. When Cyrano appears, Christian laughs at his size and calls him a mole. Cyrano learns that the new recruit is Roxanne's love, and quickly draws him away from the confused soldiers. In private, Christian is elated to hear that Roxanne is in love with him, but begins to worry when he's told that she expects a letter from him. Clumsy with his words, Christian is unable to express his feelings and Cyrano offers to write the letters for him. When Christian questions his intentions, Cyrano tells him his words are useless unless spoken out, and will help make Christian eloquent, while he makes Cyrano handsome. Handing him the letter he penned earlier to Roxanne, Christian wholeheartedly thanks him and rushes away to deliver it. Alone, Cyrano can't help but take a liking to the young man. Receiving the letter, Roxanne is over the moon when she reads Christian's words. Falling deeply in love, the pair continue to exchange love letters, unknown to her that she's reading the words of her childhood friend. During an afternoon stroll, Roxanne confesses to Cyrano that she's madly in love and asks him to arrange a time she can secretly meet with Christian. Agreeing, Cyrano is pleased to learn that Roxanne has memorized every word that Christian has written, and notes his beautiful way with words. Later that afternoon, Roxanne meets with the Duke for tea, and learning that he's now a colonel, she's fraught with concern as he's set to lead Cyrano, Christian, and the rest of the soldiers to the front that evening. She informs him that she's ended her friendship with Cyrano at his behest, and suggests he punish the imp by keeping him and the rest of the soldiers in the city to guard the women and children. The Duke thinks it humiliating, and happily thanks his future bride for the wonderful idea. Believing that Roxanne has finally fallen in love with him, he bids her farewell. Elsewhere, Cyrano and Christian argue that he's not ready to meet with Roxanne, insisting that he needs more practice. Christian stops mid-stride and suggests he no longer needs Cyrano, and that Roxanne will love him for his own words. Finally, within arm's reach of him, Roxanne tries to get him to recite his love for her, just as he's done countless times in his letters. Christian fumbles with his words, unable to articulate his feelings for her. Walking out on him, Roxanne is angry that he's made a mockery of her love for him. When Cyrano appears, a humbled Christian apologizes, telling him he was a fool to believe that he didn't need Cyrano. Pleading for his help, Cyrano concocts a plan to win back Roxanne's favor. Standing under her balcony, Christian tries to sound natural as he recites back Cyrano's words. When Roxanne asks why he hesitates with his replies, Cyrano jumps in and speaks directly to her, using his own voice. Mesmerized and unable to recognize Cyrano's voice, Roxanne suggests she come downstairs to be closer. He tells her no, and that he likes being invisible and free to speak his heart. Christian boldly reappears and asks for a kiss before Cyrano can stop him. Struggling with the smaller man, Christian hesitates when he's encouraged to go to her. Insisting that Christian is the man she wants, Cyrano concedes and walks away as the pair passionately share their first kiss. Stopped by a priest who asks for directions to Roxanne's house, Cyrano returns to her with a letter sent by the Duke. She learns that the Duke is on his way and with or without her permission, he plans to have his way with her that night. Cyrano reads the letter for himself and listens, as Roxanne tells the priest that the Duke sent him to marry her and Christian in a secret ceremony. Looking at her with anguish, he hesitates before agreeing to keep the Duke from stopping her. Cyrano keeps a lookout as the unknowing Duke makes his way to her. Meanwhile, the pair are married in a clandestine ceremony, sealing their vows with a kiss. Arriving too late, the Duke is enraged and orders Christian and Cyrano to report immediately to the front. Cyrano watches as a distraught Roxanne says goodbye to her new husband. Before heading off, he painfully tells her he can promise that Christian will continue to write to her. Time spent at the front is harsh on the men, with Cyrano keeping his promise to Roxanne as he continues to write letters for Christian. Still angry over the betrayal, the Duke sends them on a suicide mission, and Cyrano pens what may be his last letter to Roxanne. When Christian notes the tears on the paper, he learns of Cyrano's deep love for Roxanne. Discovering that Cyrano has been writing to Roxanne every day, he concludes that she is in love with the written words, and thereby in love with Cyrano. Unable to believe that Roxanne could ever love a midget and a freak, Christian shows him a letter in which Roxanne proclaims that even disfigured from the war, she will always love him. When Cyrano says, "Don't believe her," he responds with, "Don't doubt her." With nothing to live for, Christian runs onto the field unarmed, and is shot dead by the enemy as Cyrano watches his friend in horror. Rushing to his side, Cyrano listens to Christian's dying wish that he tell Roxanne the truth. Tucking the letter into Christian's pocket, he bids a final goodbye, and runs toward his own suicide mission and is hit by gunfire. The movie jumps to 3 years later, and Roxanne is working in a convent while grieving for Christian. Meanwhile, Cyrano continues to suffer from his war wounds and a broken heart. Knowing that the end is near, he meets Roxanne at the church and the old friends talk and then laugh through their grief. Handing him Christian's last letter, She watches as he begins to recite the words by memory. In disbelief, she realizes it was Cyrano all along, and is angry at his betrayal. Watching him collapse, she rushes to his side and is overwhelmed by his love for her. She manages to tearfully profess her own love for him, as he takes his final breath. Let us know if you want more movies like this in the comments below, and remember to click like and subscribe to keep them coming. If you want another tear-jerker, check out our newest recap about a young teen who struggles as an outsider and learns that what makes her different also makes her beautiful.